Welcome to episode 197 of the CUInsight Experience. My name is Randy Smith. I'm one of the co-founders of CUInsight.com, and this show is all about taking a deep dive with the leaders of the credit union movement that make it so great. Today, a little bit different episode. Actually, as you can tell, there's video, but we are on site at SACCA Congress in Kenya, and I have the great pleasure of having Miss Renée Sattiewhite back on the show for the third time. You might be alone besides Jill, who's been on 3 times. So, but we are both here. We are having conversations, and on the fly, we kind of hijacked CUInsight set to record an episode of the CUInsight Experience, and we'll talk more about that. But with that, Renée, welcome back again to the show. I love this one so much.
Wow. Thank you, Randy. I'm so thrilled to be here. And thank you to the CUInsight team for allowing us to barge in a little bit.
Just to kind of push our way in and hijack this set. So the AACUC crew is amazing. You and I have both worked with AACUC and been fortunate enough to be a part of, I think this is my 3rd or 4th CUInsight. I know you and I have hung out a couple different times at these before, and I will say, I think the first one we were both at, it really helped solidify our relationship. Absolutely. We got to spend quality time together. The amazing part is, that time, there was a handful of us from the States that were here. This year, you brought 32 people from around the U.S. credit union system to Kenya to be a part of it. That just gave me chills when I said it, quite honestly. Tell me more about that. Tell me why. Tell me what the why was behind it, and gosh, we'll go down so many rabbit holes here, but first just tell me why.
So the why was, last year I was honored with Robert Trunzo, retired CEO of TrueStage, yep, to receive the Distinguished Service Award. And only 2 women have received it, and that would be Lois Kay
Miss Lois.
and myself.
Yeah.
So when I received it with Bob, it was just so inspiring. So, when I was asked, well, you're here, so are you going to bring somebody with you next year? I said, I'm going to bring 30 people. And I'm an overachiever, yep, so we got 32. Yeah. But what's so phenomenal about who I have with us, oh my goodness, Randy, out of 12, there are 12 credit union related organizations. Okay. 8 of them are credit unions. Imagine this. Yeah. The total asset size of those 8 credit unions combined, $115 billion.
We're not talking small credit unions.
Representing 4.2 billion members.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I'm just like, okay, God, what's happening here? We have, there's a list, right? Yeah. So we've got 2 Herb Wagner recipients. That would be Bill Cheney, yeah, Mike Mercer.
They're both there, yeah.
Okay. AACUC Hall of Famers, Mike Mercer, Joan Nelson, and Sandra DeVoe Bland. 2 Pete Creer, and Sheila Montgomery.
Sheila Montgomery's here. I just saw Sheila for the first time in a while.
Right, Hall of Fame. So Pete Creer recipients, Sheila Montgomery and Sandra DeVoe Bland. And then might I add, Mike is in the Co-op Hall of Fame. Yeah. Like, oh my goodness. So I was inspired to do this. I went on a trip with Mike and Diana for a co-op visit to Italy a few years ago. And I loved it so much, I asked them, since I said I was going to bring 30 people, can you coordinate this for me? So they have, and they've done a beautiful job. To have Brett Martinez, yeah, to have Murray from the Iowa Credit Union League. This is like, oh my goodness, look at all these people who are here.
It's such a good mix of people though too, right? Like from different parts of the system, I would, yeah, say.
And then of course my shero, Kathy Mann from Inclusive. Yeah. So can you imagine all of the brain power that is here? And of course my board members, Priscilla Ockert from Coastal Credit Union, and of course Marvin York, who just did a phenomenal, amazing job at his session from Velera.
And might be the best dressed guy in credit unions.
Always the best dressed guy in credit unions. But so all of these people who are here, and Debbie Smith from GUCU, and might I add, she is the recipient of the Renée Sattiewhite Neoteric Changemaker Award that she received that in July. All of that all of those people coming because I asked, that's number one, it's humbling. Yeah. But number two, what it does for the industry. You've got Kevin Martin here, you've got Emma Hayes here. Yeah. All of these people who had never come before. Yeah. So what I'm present to, Randy, what I'm present to is when we came to Ghana the very first time, it was a handful of us. Yeah. But of course, we've got Bert J. Hess.
We have Mr. Bert J. Hess Jr.
And
We'll have to link to his episode because it was an amazing one.
So imagine all of these people here joined together, some people who had never been here before. And what's interesting is, back in the day, 4 or 5 years ago, credit unions wouldn't send their black executives over here because it was a bad thing. It wasn't, and it's not that it was a bad thing, it was an unknown thing.
An unknown. Well,
Unknown,
it's the unknown for so many, right?
So to have these credit unions support in such a way where they want to do that is amazing.
Let's talk about that, because I can imagine a lot of credit unions, like a lot of CEOs listen to this podcast and board members, and so if they're thinking about that, and this has been one of those that I've enjoyed asking people on the podcast who kind of do the international experience. Like you and I have done this together. I think of like Lois, I think of like Joanne Todd, and I mean other people that come over to different places, and what's the if they're looking for the benefit, right? Not the benefit. I think everyone leaves with a personal benefit, but how does that help our credit union or organization when we get back to the States, in your mind? Because I have all kinds of opinions on that too. But
so most people who know me know that I am a very opinionated person, and sometimes it's not that it's my way or the highway. It's I really think that I'm thinking globally. I had no clue till I got here that I was not thinking globally. There's so many different customs and cultures that we don't even understand or know about. But what's really great about traveling internationally is that, one, you get to learn more about what other people are doing, and you might be able to bring that home. Like at this conference, I saw so many things that I could do differently with our conference, and I'm gonna hit the video team up to do some of that stuff. Yeah, they're amazing. So just the level of customer service, member service that I feel that is here. The different ways that SACCOs, which are called credit, what the African words for credit unions are here, SACCOs, what they do for their members is amazing. And it's a whole effort. So the benefit for CEOs who are considering sending people over to different conferences
or coming
international or coming yourself, right, is that there is the basic benefit is being able to compare what your credit unions do to what other credit unions are doing, and then getting the best. It's like having a smorgasbord at a buffet. Get the best of what you want, because it might teach you some things that will help your credit union, help your members. What are they doing to make sure that people are doing the best they can be?
One of the things that I would add to that, just from personal experience, whether it's been SACCA Congresses or DE experiences over here, is I don't know how to explain the feeling, but there's something that kind of lights you up afterwards. And when you see the trueness of the work that the SACCOs are doing here, I mean, it's completely life-changing.
It is life-changing. It is
amazing, right?
The other benefit is, I would say that Lois and George Ambato did a phenomenal job of bringing the DE experience and principles to the continent, and to have over 1,000 DEs
just here in Africa. Since what, I think 2014?
Yes.
I mean, it's insane, like 10 years, right?
That's so amazing. So we're both DEs, so we know what that means. So you development educators, you all know that this is great stuff.
I'm actually an African DE also from Botswana last year, so or 2 years ago now.
So that perspective is unique, but the way that the continent handles their members it's the way that we used to be.
That's what it feels like a lot of the times, right? Like it's a different level of service and like changing lives, right?
And since I'm the possibility of people serving other people passionately, that speaks to me on such a different level.
And it makes us think, I think, when we go back home, right? Like what can I do better? Where can we get that same feling at home? Because we know our communities need it back home too. It's not like we don't have it figured out yet in the US, right? Like so, not as much. Yeah. I guess the other question I would have, I don't want to get too far, I want to stay on SACCA Congress for a little bit longer here, but in the idea of like us all being here and the experiences that we've had, can you talk about, because we're a few days in now, like you all came end of last week, you did SACCO visits in Nairobi before we came here to the conference area. Have you also noticed, and it kind of goes back to what I said in the very beginning about you and I forming more of a connection when you share an experience like this, but have you noticed, I mean, just as you're watching your group, like if you kind of like the mom there, right? Like watching this whole group, we know how well the AACUC team takes care of us when we come here. There is no stone left unturned, right? But have you been able to watch that group and watch the different people in it and see these connections that you know will never go away, lifelong connections? Can you talk on that at all? Because you've been with this group now for multiple days.
Randy, what's been so interesting is that we were pushing heavy and hard. We were going lots of places, doing lots of things, and being exposed to lots of great information because it's a learn and share trip.
Right.
Well, Sunday, I said, you know what? They look a little tired. We've really run them ragged. I'm going to give them the day off on Sunday. There was already a full day planned for Sunday. And do you know, they decided to stay as a group and they did everything that was planned on Sunday anyway. Because they're enjoying each other. They have bonded like nobody's business. So I was off doing some of the protocol things that I've been requested to do. And when I came back, they were all meeting at they were gathered together. And I sat in for about an hour. Randy, there was so much shenanigans going on and having fun. My cheeks hurt. I laughed so hard. My stomach was hurting because I laughed so hard. But they were enjoying each other, and it was just amazing to watch. It was amazing to be a part of that. It's like you said, when you're over in a different country, there is a bonding that takes place. And it doesn't matter which group you go with, if you're going with World Council and they're learning and share, if you're doing it with Mike and Diana, whoever you're going with, you're gonna bond. There's something about being a United States citizen and being with your people.
Absolutely.
They become your people.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter the color, it doesn't matter the culture or the background. It is like we are Team USA.
That are representing here. Yes. Yep. Absolutely. You should have seen Renee's dress yesterday for the opening ceremony. She was Team USA all the way. I'd like to pivot a little bit, and I'll say a few more things about CUInsight and AACUC at the end of this episode, because I do want everybody to check it out. And everything Renee and I talked about, just like always, will be in the show notes. Links to everything. Let's kind of switch back to the U.S. for a little bit. There's been a lot of change over the last couple of years in the United States, and in our system overall. And I look at you as, if not one, I mean, you are just one of the leaders of our space, right? And you also have that, I always say that I have a very unique perspective because it's very bird's eye. I kind of get to watch everything. You have that too. Your hands are kind of in everything on a national basis. Two questions. I'll go with the bad before the good, just because then we can just keep rolling with good. But what's concerning, or what are the struggles that you're seeing from like a system-wide basis or an AACUC basis that you're just like, boy, we got to get this fixed if we want to continue to be great and to stay relevant? And on the flip side, just so the heart can warm up a little bit, what are you seeing that you love? Like, what's exciting you today?
So I see challenges as opportunities. Yep. And so I don't see that there's something that needs to be fixed. I see that we just need to come together better. That's what I see. We need to come together better. So this trip is a good example of that happening. I've got some powerful leaders right here who didn't know each other. Yeah. So now they know each other, they can reach out to each other, they can help build a better system. I mean, I have heavyweights here, right? And so those heavyweights can go out and be parishioners, if you will, speakers of the good word. What's happening back in the States, people talk about DEI being a four-letter word. Right. Yeah. You know, I don't play into that. Yeah. I just look at it as being inclusive. You have on a purple scarf.
That's right.
The reason for that scarf is because AACUC has decided that everybody matters. Women, men, no pink scarves, men, women, disabled, elderly, youth, everybody's included. What a concept. Right. Instead of being so focused and so narrow-minded. I love our motto, people helping people, and when we all lean into that, it just gets better and better. So for the United States, again, I don't see it as a problem. People say, well, as AACUC, you might be experiencing some problem. No, I've got great members, and what people need to remember is my membership reflects what the credit union industry looks like.
Absolutely.
Which is mostly white people.
Yeah.
So, but our membership is so together and so focused on doing things differently and making things better. I don't believe I have credit unions or organizations that have joined just to check a box. People are too discerning now. I think they're part of AACUC membership because they want to make a difference. They want to make a change. And even if they're not vocal right now, even if they can't get out there and do the physical work, they're providing resources for AACUC to go out there and move forward. And so, like you said, I am pretty connected, and most of the organizations that do this type of work, not most of them, all of them, we have a phenomenal relationship with, and we work in partnership. So the collaboration, which Sheila Montgomery taught me how to be a collaborator, that is amazing. From the standpoint of you can bring these people together, you can make a difference.
Yeah, and you know, in our house, that's a big thing with Jill, obviously, and the way that you two work together has always been amazing. From the flip side of that, you know, before I go there, I want to, one of the things again that lights me up about this event was not only the scarves and that inclusive message, but even things like the climate pledge here and things of that nature. It doesn't feel political or divisive at all. It just feels like it's table stakes, that we're just all doing it, and I love the conversation. I find it to be so refreshing almost. Other side, what has you excited? What are you and the team at AACUC doing that has you excited, and what has you excited about what we're working on or can do as an industry?
So AACUC continues to, remember, I'm all about solving. And so when people say that they want more diversity in their C-suite, well, okay, so AACUC is now teamed up with, Terrence at TrueStage. He is all about making sure that we have a pipeline that's critical. So Heather from CUIs and AACUC, led by John, my best friend, John Cassidy, TrueStage has really put a stake in the ground about making sure that we have a pipeline of diversity of C-level executives that can come in and help. So what my team has said that we have the university level course for learning how to be a C-level executive, and that CUIs has a graduate course. And so we're coming together to work together for a pipeline we're doing and making sure that we can get that situated, we can get that foundation going. What I love about what I get to do at AACUC is I get to put younger people forward, just as the founding, my legacy board members did for me. I was much younger, and and they allowed me to be in the space. They allowed me to do what I do, and that gift has to continue. I love that we brought so many young people over here with us to expose them, and George is going to hold me to this, I know. My goal is to bring 10 young people with me next year, among whoever we bring, but 10 who are movers and shakers, because I want the legacy to continue.
It sounds like a scholarship opportunity.
It really does. And maybe Velera and that's okay, yes. Visa and
what do we do there?
Yeah.
Looking at you, Chuck. No. Let's see. From there, I'd like to talk to a little bit more. You started to talk about the DEI. When you're thinking about leadership, you mentioned, we've both been in around this business for a while now. And is there anything when you're talking to these younger folks that you're bringing up, and that's a huge thing that we've been having discussions in Africa around, right? I thought. I'm trying to think of, I'm drawing a blank on her name right now.
Brandy Stankovic?
It wasn't Brandy. It was someone from one of the African countries. But she said during a panel yesterday or the day before, where she just said to the older people in the room, remember you were young ones too. And it was about giving the shot. And she said some stuff after it, but I'm like, oh, that should have been the end right there. It was amazing. And when you're talking about bringing these young people along and bringing them up, as I would say, if you had a couple pieces of advice that you've learned over your career, what would they be? What do you tell every one of them that wants to someday sit in your seat or my seat or Bill Cheney's seat or Sheila Montgomery's old seat? I mean, like, what do you tell them? What's, one or two things that you've lived and learned along the way that you could pass on?
Learn to listen.
Yeah.
Learn to listen. Be a collaborator. In order to be the best leader you can be, you've got to rely on the people who you choose to sit with you.
Yeah.
And understand that you may not have the best ideas. And a smart leader has smarter people around them.
Absolutely.
And so I have an incredible team around me, which makes AACUC what it is today. I didn't do that by myself. I handpicked everybody on my team. They have a specific skill set that surpasses none. We did a joint conference with CU leadership in July, and it was a phenomenal experience for me. And a lot of people were kind of concerned about, why are we doing this with CU leadership? It wasn't traditional. Dennis had been getting after me for years, can we do something combined? And he's a phenomenal marketing person. And he's a visionary. And he sat on that stage and he said, we are about DEI. And so that presence, right? Well, we did our Peak Career Lifetime Achievement Award. Dan Berger and Senator Vobland received that this year. And we did it at a luncheon. It was 45 minutes long, but Danya is so detailed and it just ran so smoothly. Yeah. So for me, we did a Herb Wagner in 45 minutes at lunchtime. It was amazing. But the power of the team. Yeah. I remember when, because I've done 22 of the 26 conferences that we've done at AACUC. And I remember when I was doing this, that, and the other, running around, I did nothing. I brought your massages this year.
Right. Yep. That's when you know you have a good team, right?
Yes.
So that here's a rabbit hole for you, but I'd love to speak on that because you've had some pretty remarkable growth over the last few years at AACUC. So which means you've had to add teams. Yes. There's quite some time where it was Renee. Yeah. People might have thought it was a bigger organization, but it was all about you, right? Like, it's not anymore. Now you got a whole squad. Yes, sir. Yeah. So as you're thinking back over the last couple of years, and you're adding those critical people who've turned out to be superstars, right? Like, when you're going through the interview process, what are you looking for in people? Is there something that you're like, oh, they fit me, they fit this group, they have it? And on the flip side, is there that one thing that if somebody says, does, whatever, you're like, sorry, you're done. Nope, you're out of this process.
Happens.
Yeah.
And I don't do a whole lot of interviewing.
Yeah.
What I typically bring in people who have volunteered with me. Okay. So I get to see what they do. I get to see how they take direction. I get to see if they can take the constructive criticism. Because as you know, when I'm on it, my team knows I'm in a mode. Yeah. And if I'm in that mode, the nice, sweet Renee, and I am a very nice, sweet person, but there are other times when I'm very direct, I need to get things done. And so you can't take that personally. All I'm looking at, I'm laser focused about what I want to do. So if you can't take the heat, you can't be on the team because I don't have time. But what I've done is I've had them all go through a specific training so that it level set everything. Okay. Once you get level set, the team now knows, because I grew AACUC from a certain place to this place. Right. And so it's in my head. And there's no guidebook. So they don't know that. So we've learned to ask what we call clarifying questions. And Emma Hayes taught me. I was fuzzing. They just won't do what I need them to do. What do I do? And Emma Hayes coached me and she says, Miss Renee, have you set the expectations? Do they know what you want them to do? Well, everybody should know that. She goes, no.
Can't they read my mind?
There's a Renee way of doing things, yeah. And then there's a way that they're thinking through. Yeah. And so now it's, okay, here's what success looks like. And that has just been key to, I believe, to the catapult for our success as a group, as a team. And when I tell you, I get teary-eyed thinking about how far the team has come and how good they are. The fact that I can be gone for 10 days and I'm not in the States and I'm not worried about my team or the organization because I know they've got it.
That is a good feeling.
Yeah.
That is a really good feeling. Well done, my friend. What about on the flip side? What turns you off from, you just know they wouldn't be a good fit for your team at AACUC? Everybody has a home, but maybe it's not with you.
when they do not follow the hierarchy or the protocol. For instance, someone communicating with me directly when you've been working under someone else. Okay?
Yeah.
And because you have to I've put people in place for a reason. That authority, that respect has got to be provided.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. That's you. I mean, and that part of that is like you. One of the things I respect, and we all know about you, if you've been around you or any of the events that you've created, is that like they run smooth. You're on a tight ship. That's for sure. Talk to me a little bit about, and I know we talked about this a little bit but it's been a long time. You and Maurice were on, at your event at the annual conference a few years back. You were on yourself, but so a lot of the people may not have listened. That was probably 150 episodes ago now, so it's kind of crazy to think about. But what were some of the things, I guess, or was there like that investment that you made in yourself or your career that you think about that you would not be here today if you hadn't have done that?
Oh my gosh, the first thing is landmark education. So that's the basics. For landmark education is a version of DE.
Okay.
And so I went through that a long time ago. I've been a head coach, a self-expression and leadership program. So there are all these different levels, like in DE.
Yeah.
And so going through that took me out of, it's about Renee.
Okay.
I learned community. I learned a different way of service and what that meant. I worked for Sheila Montgomery for 10 years at the hip, and she availed me to everything. I got to be the business VP, I got to be the marketing VP, I got to be the executive assistant, and she taught me how to deal with the board. I've been doing board training for United Way for 32 years now.
Right. Yeah.
But Sheila Montgomery taught me how to do that. She taught me the board is your boss.
Right.
And so for me to be able to give that advice back, right? And then basically listening to what my mother told me to do. Send thank you cards. Always make sure that your shoes are shined.
You were fantastic.
And that, all of those things that my mama taught me how to do, that has made the difference in my life and in my career. I'm a very thoughtful person by nature, but just learning how to ask people questions about themselves and not talk about me so much, but learning what Randy likes. What is Randy into? Diving, is it not?
It is.
Traveling, is it not? Well, okay. Jill, is it not?
Jill, it is.
Okay. So,
favorite.
right? But knowing that and understanding that. So when you're in conversation and you bring that up, well, I never hesitate. Whenever I see George Ambato, I always ask about Catherine and the kid.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always talking about son. Yeah.
Because they matter to him.
Absolutely.
And I want him to know that what concerns him concerns me.
Yeah, I love that. Something you were said there I think is important because, again, a lot of the people that listen to this podcast and get to watch it this time, they're like, many of them are in the C-suite and they someday want to be the CEO, right? Or they're trying to move up in their careers. You don't spend 45 minutes listening to us talk if you're not trying to better yourself, right? Board relationships. You mentioned Sheila helping you understand that. You'd even trained in it, but to know, that is such an interesting position. And a lot of my friends, I think it comes with age, you have more friends moving to that CEO role, have been surprised, even if they were in the C-suite, how much the CEO may be buffered from the board. Yes. Like they thought just showing up for the meeting and they're like, I get to speak to the board. That's not the board relationship. For either the new CEO or maybe the person who's about to become a CEO, do you have any tips on creating a good board?
So Maurice R. Smith, he has prepared, and maybe we can get that downloaded. Oh, yeah. He has prepared a 90-day for a brand new CEO.
Oh, really?
And he's just given a template that is phenomenal. So lean into that.
Yeah.
Board relationships, understand that. I remember saying this to a CEO who used to be at Credit Union of Atlanta, and I told him, I said, you need to understand that this is a leased position.
Yeah, that's good.
You don't own this house.
That's true.
The board owns the house. Yeah. They're letting you lease it, honey. And so when you get that, when you understand that, the board expects for you to lead the organization. They absolutely do. But you could be gone tomorrow.
true.
Because at the end of the day, you work at the pleasure of the board of directors.
That's true.
And once you remember that and recognize that, you're a whole lot better off.
I love that. Before I start to wrap up the show, we're not done yet, but I want to make sure that I don't leave anything on the table that you were hoping to talk about. Was there anything that you were hoping I was going to ask you or bring up today that we haven't so far? Because, I mean, you and I just pulled this thing together pretty quickly here on the fly. So,
Anything you want?
I have no expectations. Anytime I have an opportunity to speak with you, we just get flowing and going down rabbit holes and all that kind of stuff. But I do think it's important to mention a couple of things,
Okay,
right?
yep.
So Bill Cheney is here, and everyone knows that Bill Cheney is my hero. He is my hero. I didn't have a relationship with Brett Martinez.
Okay. Yeah.
But oh my God, he's fantastic. And I'm just so pleased that these billion-dollar CEOs took the time to be here with us.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that two of my board members are here because they wanted to be. And then everybody knows my favorite, S.P. Poblano, that young woman. I see me in her, only she's not as in your face, but she's so helpful, and she's so effective and so efficient.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I think are so important. Like, I got an opportunity to bring her. So of all the staff, I chose SB. She's well-rounded, she's flexible, and she's technical. She's just all the things. And so when I'm looking at how things are coming together and how things are being brought together, Debbie Smith, AACUC sits on the second floor of what used to be the Georgia affiliates.
Okay. Yep.
I have Mike Mercer's old office.
that's true, yeah, and he helped you put this all together, right?
Exactly. So the relationships that have been formed, the outpouring of support, I just can't thank all of my member credit unions enough, and my corporate partners, and of course the True Stage just announced the $1 million gift.
Yeah.
I'm just so humbled and overwhelmed at the level of support. So when people talk about DEI as a fad and it's going away and all of that, wrong answer.
I agree.
I think that people are doubling down, just like Dennis said at the CU Leadership Conference. We're doubling down on DEI. Terrence, he's doubling down on DEI. That because it's important, and everybody who in my mind who has a brain. And the statistics are telling you that by 2030, our whole landscape of what the United States looks like is going to change into the colored majority. You better get on board. It is a business decision to have people who look like the people you're serving, run the leadership of your organization.
Leadership should look like the community you serve. It just makes sense, right? Like, last question here, because I did want to ask you this, is, sorry, I put this. For those out there who are in positions where maybe they aren't in the full leadership position, but they're struggling with that because their organization maybe isn't moving as fast in the right direction, or has stalled on what they were doing a couple of years ago, and it felt like they were the ones who just, well, we did a press release or something of that nature, but it was like there was no meat on those bones. We hear that and we see that a lot. If you're maybe in the mid-management levels, or you were tasked to do something, and you're like, well, that went nowhere. Glad I put in all that work. Nothing. How do you keep them going? You know, I mean, because, and I was just thinking about like the grant that you got from True Stage and everything that you've built up. With that comes a lot of responsibility, my friend, to do it well, to deliver on that. So I think of what you've done, and you've continuously, constantly, time after time, you deliver. Everybody, I think that's like a common Renee delivers. That young, frustrated person, maybe not even young, frustrated person, that frustrated person in the organization. We see way too many of them leave, and I hate when they leave out of credit unions to go someplace else because they're great people. What do you say to them to well, just keep swimming forward? I'm not sure even what to say there, but.
So I have many conversations like that, but I'm happy to report that while I'm having these many conversations, part of what I explain to them is you have to stay. you're the one who's going to make a difference. You're the one who has the passion for it. So just hang in there. This DEI, it's a journey. It's not, you don't end here. It's many stops and starts. It's many stops and starts. AACUC just didn't get where it was. It was the first time around when I was here, it was me and the legacy board members, secretaries, all of their executive assistants. That's who my staff was. Right. And Michael Hill had 3, so I called them the triple threat. So that's you have to understand that it comes in waves, and it just comes in waves. And sometimes it's good, and sometimes I don't dive and I don't surf. But I can only imagine that sometimes if the water is cool, you can do what you need to do. Yeah. And so you have to know when to move forward and when to hold your hand. I've had many people have a frustration about their organization, talk to me about it, and I kind of chill them out and get them settled. Each and every one has come back and said, if I hadn't listened to Miss Renee, I would have made a mistake and left. I didn't leave, and look at where I am now. Look
what we're doing. And what the organization, I'm sure, is too, right? So, okay, we're going to wrap this up. It wouldn't be the CUInsight Experience without some rapid fire questions. And this is kind of a unique one because we just put this together on the fly. You didn't get these questions beforehand at all. So, let's see, which ones? I'm also on the fly trying to think of some of my favorites. What was the, I know I didn't ask this last time you were on, what was the first job you ever had, like that you made $1 at?
I cleaned toilets in Chula Vista, California for a real estate agent.
There you go. You were 12. What is the greatest album of all time? And I know you're a singer. First time you sang in the podcast. But what's that greatest album that you can still listen to front to back, not skip a song?
There's too many. I will give you Aretha Franklin's 30 greatest hits.
Well, then you get the greatest hits. That's a good call. Is there something that you hold on to, or that like you really should throw out? Just a random thing where you're like, why do I still have this?
That's interesting. That's interesting because, we found mold. Mold was found, I have multiple houses now because I'm all over the place, but we found mold in my primary residence. And so all of the stuff in the garage has to go. Okay. And I have stuff from a very long time ago, and I have a card that meant, I'm going to cry, that meant the world to me when I was 18.
Oh, geez. Okay.
First real boyfriend, Michael Pitts. Michael, if you're around, how you doing, honey? Michael gave me a card that said, it had a basket of, he got it from 7-Eleven. It had a basket of apples on it, and it looked real rustic, and it said, simple pleasures mean more when spent with you.
Aw, Michael. Well,
I probably should let that go.
Yeah, right. That's been a while, but I love that. When you hear the word success, I ask it on every show. Who's the first person that comes to mind?
Maurice R. Smith.
Tell me why. You know how much I love Maurice, but tell me why.
Maurice is such a well-rounded individual, so humble. Maurice any crazy idea I have, he supports it, but will tell me, I don't know, Renee, what do you think about this? Would you consider that? The legacy that he's built, to have gone from around 60 million when his credit union started to 2 billion when he left, to have created the presidents that he created before he left, the foundation, to be an author of the book, Sowing Seeds from My Father.
We'll link to that as well.
Maurice has been someone who I have been so blessed to be in his presence.
Well, we'll link to the episode that we all did together as well, so people can come back and listen to that after this. Before we wrap up, that was the last question from me. So the last one that I give to you is, do you have, I normally say an ask from our listeners, or the viewers in this case as well, that you would like people to do or check out? Or
I do. It is so important that you be in the present, but more than anything, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and please show grace. When you do not understand something, do not make assumptions. Go a little bit further and see if you can extend grace. we get so caught up in having things done my way, wanting things done instantly, that I don't think we give enough time and consideration for the people who are doing acts of service for us, like people who are waiting, waitresses, bartenders, the hotel staff, people who are driving the cars, the buses. The people who are on the phone trying to help you clear up stuff on your bills,
Right.
I don't think we give each other enough grace. So my ask would be, please give somebody grace. And if you can, say something meaningful to somebody. When you ask how you're doing, take the time to sit and listen.
That is the perfect way to wrap up the show. Thank you again, my friend, Miss Renee, for doing this today and being here. Before we go, I want to give a shout out to SACCA Insight. For those listening, you can't see me pointing, but to the background and behind us, what George Ambato and his crew at AACUC are doing and putting together, it is going to, I think, possibly change a continent. It is fantastic. We will link to SACCA Insight in our show notes from this episode as well. He is doing some great interviews. Miss Renee was on one of the first ones, and many others. Some faces you know, some you don't. But there will be great stuff to learn from. So keep an eye out for that. Please help support our friends on the continent. Don't forget, subscribe to the CUInsight Experience on your favorite podcast player. We're on each and every one of them. Apple, Spotify, whatever you choose. Also, you can Google the CUInsight Experience podcast book list to find any of the books mentioned on this show, like what Ms. Renee told us about. We'll link to that since we, on the fly here, we can. And last but not least, thank you all for listening and watching. Y'all rock, and I appreciate you so much for allowing me to have this much fun doing what I do. Be well, friends.